It all started about a month ago. I got a call from my mom on a cold Monday. We talk often, so hearing from her wasn't unusual. The only weird part was that she called while I was at work. I'm an engineer, so she usually only calls during work hours if it's something important. I answered the phone, expecting to hear that someone had died, but instead, I was met with her familiar, gentle voice. She sounded calm, sweet. She was just asking how my day was going. Don't get me wrong, I love my mom and I enjoy talking to her, but I was at work and it was a hectic day. I politely asked to get back to what I was doing. Right before we hung up, she said something that caught me off guard. "I'm glad you've been sleeping better. You looked so peaceful." That threw me off a little. I mean, I'm in my 30s and I've been living alone for almost 7 years. Plus, my mom lives nearly 200 miles away. I didn't think much of it at the time, but as the days went on, for some reason, it started to bother me more and more. After I got off work, I called her back. Once again, she started chatting with me in that same relaxed, cheerful tone. But what she said earlier kept echoing in my head, so I asked her what she meant by it. Without hesitation, and still in that happy tone, she said, "Well, you were tossing and turning. It made me happy to see you finally sleeping so peacefully last night." I didn't know how to respond. I asked if she was joking. Her reaction was just as surprised as mine. She said she had tucked me into bed last night. I didn't want to start an argument. My mom's not exactly young, and there's a history of degenerative brain disease in our family. I started to worry she might be getting sick, so I gently changed the subject back to her day. Despite the confusion, we ended up having a pretty nice conversation. As soon as we hung up, I texted my brother, he lives in the same town, and asked him to check on her. Since then, I've felt like I'm slowly losing my mind. At first, it was the smallest things, little details that weren't quite right. Like the night I came home and saw the chair at the head of my dining table pulled way out. I could have sworn I'd pushed it in, but logic told me I must have forgotten. My bed was made, even though I hadn't made it. Tucked in, neat and tight, exactly the way my mom used to do it when I was a kid. I called my brother. I had no idea what was going on. Maybe mom had come to visit and was just messing with me. Didn't seem like her, but what else could it be? He told me he'd just had tea with her earlier that day. It's been getting worse. At night, I can hear footsteps, but when I get up to look for the source, they vanish, making me question whether I actually heard anything at all. A few nights ago, I woke up around 3 in the morning to the sound of mumbling. It was faint, barely audible, but I recognized the melody instantly. It was the lullaby my mom used to sing to me when I was little, the one she would hum when I had nightmares. I froze. It was coming from the door of my bedroom. I didn't dare look. I just shut my eyes and lay stiff under the blanket, trying not to breathe too heavily. Eventually, the sound faded. When I finally gathered the courage to turn on the light, the room was empty, but the closet door, which I always left open, was closed. During the day, I call her, but it's no use. Either she doesn't answer any of my calls, or she talks as if nothing happened. Most of the time, she starts talking about irrelevant things that drive me to the edge of madness. I even recorded our last conversation, thinking maybe I could catch something, some slip or change in her voice that would explain what's happening. But when I listened to it, the voice was crystal clear, very clear. No background noise at all, no ambient hum, No dragging of feet, no sound of a spoon in her teacup. Just her voice, saying brightly and cheerfully that she was proud of me. "Now you're so calm." I hadn't told her that I recorded it. Yet, right before the call ended, she said this: "You should stop doing that. It's not polite." I've become paranoid. I don't sleep in my bed anymore. Instead, I sleep on the couch. But without fail, I wake up in my bed, covered up. Last night, I stayed awake as long as possible. I thought if I could catch her in the act, I could prove to myself that this wasn't just my imagination. I don't remember falling asleep, but I do remember waking up. I remember the hand that pulled the blanket over me. It wasn't hers. It was colder, thinner. The fingers were too long, and they didn't tremble like hers always did. When it touched my forehead, there was no warmth, just a kind of pressure, like it was trying to memorize me. I kept my eyes shut. I don't know why. I think I believed that if I looked at it, it would look back at me. But it knew I was awake. I can't explain how, but I could feel that it knew. It leaned in closer. I could feel it, how the bed dipped beside me, slow and deliberate. The sound it made was low and wet, like thick spit pulling apart in strings. Something dragged across my cheek. Not fingers this time. Something softer. Frayed at the edges, maybe hair, but it felt like flesh left out in the sun for too long. Then it spoke. "You don't cry like you used to." Not like before. Its voice was trying to be hers, but it wasn't right. The words came out broken, halting, and slow, like someone reading phonetics off a card. And underneath it, something else was breathing. Heavier. Strained. Excited. I opened my eyes. There was nothing there, but the blankets beside me were rising and falling like someone still lay there, invisible, mimicking my breath. The dip in the mattress was fresh. Deep, and on the pillow next to me was a thick, dark streak, brownish red, the edges spoiled like old blood mixed with dirt. When I looked at the mirror, something was sitting at the edge of the bed. At first, I thought it was her. The hair was the same length, center parted, but it was patchy, thin, and coarse in places, clumped like wet straw in others. Some tufts were missing entirely, revealing skin that looked stitched too tightly over something that wasn't a skull, like burlap stretched over the wrong shape. It dipped its head again. The movement was jerky, like a puppet tangled on its strings. Then, slowly, it began to turn. I didn't want to see. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. The face in the mirror was trying to be my mother's. It had her eyes, or at least where her eyes used to be. But they were clouded now, too wide, like glass marbles pressed into soft clay. The nose was flattened, crushed like something broken and reset wrong. But the worst part was the mouth. It stretched too far, as if cut at the corners. The lips were cracked and crusted, peeled back into a permanent smile that showed rows of tiny, baby-like teeth. Dozens of them. Too white, too clean. She was running her hand over the pillow, slow, almost tender. And then she looked up, not at the bed, at the mirror, at me, and she smiled. I backed away from the mirror, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think. I didn't want to see her anymore. I didn't want her to see me. But I couldn't look away. The thing on the bed tilted its head slowly, almost like it was curious. Then it raised one long, trembling arm and waved. I turned around. There was nothing there. When I looked back at the mirror, it was gone. The bed was empty again, just wrinkled blankets and silence. I stood there for a long time, barely breathing, too afraid to move. And then my phone rang. It was my mom. Her voice was soft, calm. "Don't be afraid, sweetheart. she said. "We just miss you." If you liked the video, subscribe, leave a comment. And remember, we'll meet again where the light fades.